Kadosh, Boker Or. In this week's parasha, ve'ele amishpatim asher tasim lifnehem. We're talking about parasha mishpatim, which are all judgments. This is all the concept of choshe mishpat, money matters between different people. So Chazal HaKadoshim, they actually learn from the Eved Ivri in Parashat Behar, right? It's written over there, Ki tov lo imach. What does it mean, Ki tov lo imach? If you only have one pillow, who gets the pillow? The slave. Yeah, why? Because if he sleeps with a pillow and the slave sleeps without the pillow, it's not tov lo imach. He has to be good with you. That means you cannot come and start eating your steaks and you tell the slave, listen, here you have some French fries and some hot dogs if you want. No. If you're the one that you're benefiting from it, tov lo imach. He has to have the same good with you. That's what's brought down in Parashat Behar. So he says he has to give, right, the pillow to the slave, and he sleeps without the pillow. And if he's got two of them, so one to him and one to the slave. He's got three of them, two to the slave and one to him. Because it always has to be tov lo imach, that it has to be good with you. That's what's brought down, right, that we learn from the parasha in Parashat Behar, which is the end of Vayikra. Okay? Now, here we have an incredible question. All the dinim of Ben Adam Lechavero, usually we learn it from Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. You have to love your friend like yourself. As the Gemara speaks about, whether it's the goy that came in front of Hillel and he wanted to learn the entire Ben Adam Lechavero, he wanted to learn the entire Torah on one leg. So he comes and he tells him, whatever your friend hates, don't do, right? Whatever you hate, don't do to your friend. So he comes and he says, but that's Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha on the negative, not on the positive. He didn't tell him that if you have good, if you like steak, give him steak. He just said, if you don't like that, they're going to call you names or they're going to throw the cake in your face. So don't do it to your friend. They said on the negative. They didn't say it on the positive. So the question is, Rabbi Akiva comes and he says, so therefore, what's going on then? Right? Kamocha means like you, but not more than you. So for example, mitzvah tzedakah. Reuven is an ashir. He's got a neighbor. His name is Shimon. And he's a poor person. Reuven has one pillow. He's obligated to give the pillow to the two Shimon. You're rich. Your neighbor is poor. You have to give the pillow to the neighbor? Where does it say that? For sure not. It says, kamocha, like you. It doesn't say better than you. It says like you. So what's going on then? Right? So he comes and he says, right, there's a yotzei dofen, right? That means there's an exception to this rule, which is Eved Ivri. That by the Eved Ivri, you have to actually give him better than you. Now, where does that come out? And that's why the Gemara says, we learn from here that if you purchase for yourself an Eved Ivri, you purchase yourself a master. Meaning the master thought that he bought a slave, and he bought a master. Because now he has to treat the slave better than himself. So he thought that he was buying a slave, he's actually buying a master for himself. Because now, so that is the exception to the rule, okay? So therefore, it's actually written here, a very important, again, fundamental. A fundamental yesod, something of foundations. What is the Torah teaching us? The Torah is teaching us, how do you fix midot? How do you fix your attributes? How do you fix your character traits? It says, how do you connect with HaKadosh Baruch Hu? And he's going to give a mashal. He says, imagine right now Reuven only has one pillow, right? And Shimon doesn't have a pillow. But besides that he doesn't have any pillow, right? He also has in his back problems with his disc, with his spinal cord. And therefore, without a pillow the entire night, he's going to be suffering the entire night. In such a case, for sure there's a tzedakah and chesed and everything that you want, that he's going to come and he's going to give him a pillow, right? But you're without the pillow, right? Okay, fine. Maybe it's not going to be that, but you're still going to sleep. But him without the pillow, he's going to be in excruciating pain. He's going to, because forget about now that he doesn't have a pillow. He's got a bad back, and so it's going to be even worse. Rabotai, right? He comes and he says, this Eved, this slave, right? He says he doesn't have anything in the back, right? He's got in his neshama. Naturally, right, between the master and the slave, is that the master feels that he's in control, and the slave feels that he's a nobody. He's low life. He's low. He's belittled. He's humbled. Now, all of a sudden, if right now the master has the pillow and the slave sleeps without the pillow, it just strengthens it even more that he's a nobody. He's a nothing. You understand? And that's why it's going to be very, very bad for the slave. The entire night he's going to be crying. How does he not even have a pillow? So he's always going to feel that he's the low one, he's the slave, and that the other one's the master. But all of a sudden, imagine if you flip it. Imagine right now if you flip it, that all of a sudden the master is the one that gives the slave the pillow, and the master doesn't have the pillow. So he comes and he says, right, it could be that you're right. Maybe the master is going to sleep a little bit worse tonight, but mitzad the sentimental feelings, he's not going to feel bad. Why? Okay, so maybe it might not be the most comfortable, but he's not going to feel bad. But it's the feelings. So he says, the truth is, here there's something even double. Not only just because the feelings of the slave, but also the feelings of the master, naturally. That if the pillow is yours and it's going to, and then you're leaving the slave without a pillow, you do two sins. Because number one, naturally, you already are being above the slave, okay? And he already feels this bad confidence because he's a slave. And now you're just even strengthening it. So because of that, that's even worse. And the exact same thing we find by what we mentioned in the previous shiur to do with lending out money in the parasha. Im kesef talveh et ani et ani imach. He comes and it says, right? The Sefer HaChinuch says, Im kesef is like a new parasha. It's like something completely new. Im kesef talveh et ani. That's what the Chinuch comes and he says. We learn from here. It's like a new parasha, something completely different. So he comes now and he says, right, as follows. He comes and he says, right, like this. He says, the Torah is warning us. Look at yourself that you're the poor person. Why? It's not only enough that you're just giving tzedakah, but rather you have to actually put yourself in his shoes, that you're the ani. And the concept, the connection between interest, right? The Torah says, it's two different things, right? That there's nothing connection. Rashi says, right? Don't ask for it in a harsh way. If you know that he doesn't have money, don't come and, so he comes and he says, don't embarrass him, which means don't put pressure on him to come and to start paying back, right? I want you to pay back. I want you to pay back. I want you to pay back. Rav Chaim Brisker was very, very machmir on this. Somebody had a very large amount of money and he borrowed money and he had a huge amount. And Rav Chaim thought that maybe he didn't have money to pay. So every time Rav Chaim would see him in the street, right? Immediately he used to go to the other side of the street. He didn't want him to feel bad that maybe he's going to see him and say, I owe him money. So he purposely used to go on the other side of the street so that way he wouldn't see him. That means, imagine, the majority of us will do the exact opposite. You owe me money, I'm going to come in your face. Hello, how are you? No. Rav Chaim Brisker made sure that if he saw the person, he would go on the other side. So we wouldn't even see him. Purposely that he doesn't feel bad if he still didn't pay back. That was Rav Chaim Brisker. So he once said, right, that after a few months, the person got the money, came back to Rav Chaim Brisker to pay him. So he says to Rav Chaim, you probably actually forgot. I don't hear from you a word. Says Rav Chaim, what are you talking about? I'm going to bring you a proof that I never forgot. Right? He comes and he says, I always made sure, right, that I never saw you. I always made sure that whenever I would come and see you from far, I would always go to the other side. That's a siman that I didn't forget that you still owe me money. The exact opposite. He thought the fact that he didn't come to him and mention nothing for a few months, Rav Chaim Brisker probably forgot that he even lent him money. It was the exact opposite. He comes and he tells him, the fact that every time that I saw you, I was never there, I was always on the other side, that's a siman I never forgot you. That was a siman that I never forgot that I lent you money. Because that was he never wanted him to feel bad. That was the entire concept. So he says, Lo tiye lo kenoshe is the azara rishona, right? Which means don't pressure him to pay him back. Lo tesimun alav neshech means don't take interest, right? Which is basically two different things, but they both have, right, the concept of between a lender and a borrower. But the Ramban comes and he says something incredible. Lo tiye lo kenoshe is the malveh. Yomar shelo tiye lo kemalveh shu kemoshel. Don't make yourself now higher up because you lent him money. Don't make yourself feel that you're superior because you were able to lend the guy money. Just like the Torah says, Evel lovel ish malveh. It's a pasuk in Mishle. Make it as if that you never lent him money in your lifetime. Says the Ramban, don't take nothing from it, whether it's money or respect. Meaning, don't come and start putting yourself up. I lent him the money. I did him a favor. I saved his back. No, that's not the way it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be that you're lending him and that you're not even supposed to feel superior. That was purposely done in such a way. That's what the Ramban Nachman comes and he says. So the Ramban is actually now saying that they both have the same root. Even though they're two different halachot. One of them is don't put pressure that the guy pays you back. Number two, don't charge him interest. Says the Ramban, it comes from the same thing. Because it comes from the same concept. Don't take anything extra from him. Don't take money from him or kavod from him. Don't make him feel that he's inferior. And don't make yourself feel that you are going to be superior. Right? He comes and he says, right? He comes and he says now like this. So he says, whether the malve to the love, the Torah comes and is very makpid, that he shouldn't do that. Aval tiyet should be like a chesed. What does it mean a chesed? You never lent him money in your lifetime. And that's the entire concept of in kesef talve etami. Now he comes and he says, so therefore it comes out that if you have the pillow, right, you have to give it to him. But why? He comes and he says, right? He says, he'll lend you, but you won't lend him. He will be on the top, right, as a head, and you will be for the tail. And therefore the Torah says, what does that mean? You always have to make him feel that he's equal. You have to make him feel that he's equal to you, not that you're always superior. By the majority of people, they come and they make them feel that they're superior. Hashkafat Torah is against communism, right? But rather it has to be that everyone is actually going to be equal together. In Russia, right? Every single time people used to come and they wanted to fix the world. So they had the communist concept and everything. He comes and he says, look how much it was, the difference between the rich people and the poor people. He comes and he says, especially after everything that was happening. And you actually see it. You know, you speak about all these things and it's actually something incredible. He comes and he says, look how it is that you have the Ashirim were coming, the rich people were coming and taking advantage of the poor people. They were working, making them work 12 to 14 hours a day with a maskor, with a little stipend that was not even worth nothing, that they weren't even able to eat hardly anything. And therefore he comes, but for us, he says, we want that it should be that they should feel good. They shouldn't feel bad. And that's why it says, right, that the entire concept of what we're talking, the entire concept that the Ashir and the Ani should be together. So he comes and he says, Gam Ashir bedat ha'oshen pikadon itzlo. You have to remember that the Ashir has to feel that everything is just a pikadon. It's just a deposit. It's not even his. Hashem gave him the wealth because he is the one in charge of other people's money. But it's not his money. He's only in charge for other people. It's like a guy in the bank. Do you think a banker is going to come and start saying, I'm counting the millions? It's not his. It doesn't help. It might look good. It might look very nice, counting all the hundreds, but nothing's his. So if nothing's his, he can't become haughty because of it. So fine, but he's counting other people's money. That's what he does, but he's not doing anything else. So he comes and he says, that's the entire concept, right, of that a person says, right, it's a Rabbi im lamdo me'inene Hashem. Meaning that at the end of the day, it has to be that they have to feel good. They want to feel good about each other. They want to feel, and that's what it was known of Moshe Feinstein. He says, just like there's a mitzvah to give maaseh ksafim, so too there's a mitzvah also to come and to give from ourselves, whether it's our time, whether it's everything, our values that we have, in order to come and to teach other people as well. Why? Because it's very, very, very important, right? In order to actually understand this. Right? Fine. There was actually an incredible story, and I'll bring you down this story, right, to teach us the concept. In Yerushalayim, there was a Yehudi Tzadik Gadol, right, that used to live in Geula, and his name was Rav Mondoner Zecher Tzadik Livracha. Right? He used to be a very big, Achnasat Orchim on Shabbatot and Leil Shabbat. Everybody in Yerushalayim used to come and they used to eat. It actually once happened, right, that one of the people in Yerushalayim was going around of Mea Sharim, and he saw a Rebbe. So he comes, he puts his hands down, he asks the bracha. The Rebbe says, well, you want a bracha from me? Right? Here at the end, there's a Jew that he's one of the Lamed Vav Tzadikim. He's one of the 36 Tzadikim of the generation. His bracha is worth millions. Go to him. So the guy comes and he runs to him. After a few, he comes and he goes, well, what Tzaddik? Right? He says, who's Shtor? Why is it Tzaddik? He's all like me. He comes and he collects money like me. The Rebbe says, what do you say he's a Shnor? He comes and he says, Chamesh Shanim, for 5 years, every single Friday night, I come and I eat by him. Right? So he comes and he says, in the Ben Adam, he comes and he's eating with everybody. Who was that Jew? It was Rav Mander, Bichvodo Be'atzmo, which means for 5 years, right, they were eating by him and they never knew who was a Balabait. For 5 years, people are eating in his house and everybody's there and they're all eating and they don't know who's the owner of the house. That's the greatness. So he comes and he says, he was certain that he was there like all the other shnorim for 5 years, right? He never sent it. He says, but he's the one that's giving. He's not the one that's receiving, but he made everyone feel like that. There was actually another story also that happened, right, with Rav Yaakov Levinson. He was known in London, right, that he used to, so today he lives in Yerushalayim. He says, 50, 60 shana, for 50 or 60 years, his house was like Avraham Avinu. The Panovich Rav, right, was like a ben bait by him. He was very, very close to the Panovich Rav. All the Mishulachim in London, they all felt that they had his house. They used to come, open up his fridge, right, make salads. They used to make eggs. They used to sleep there. He had 13 children, right? Sometimes the children were sleeping, right, on the floor in the kitchen, right, in order to receive guests, right? Just to understand what we're talking about, okay? So he comes and he says, right, he says, what is the greatest, they actually, by the way, some people say that, if you don't respect your children, they once went and they interviewed his children, they asked, what is the greatest dream that you ever had? He said, every child said, Hachalom shelanu shielanu bait kemo habayit shegaldalnu bo. That means they took the children of this person, 13 children, and they asked him, what is your dream? And they said, our dream is that we should grow up in a house just like what we grew up in. That means our dream is that we should have a house just like what we grew up in. And they were sleeping on mattresses in the kitchen in order to come and to give guests their beds and everything. Imagine what it is. So he says, once happened, there was a Meshulach that came to collect money, and he was there 5-6 weeks. So he already felt, listen, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, is in the same house. He already felt a little bit, So he comes and he tells the Balabait, Rav Yaakov, Tagidli, elu dvarim she'en shiur, achnasat orchim, but kama shiur. So he says, listen, I'm here for already 5-6 weeks. So Rav Yaakov comes and tells him, whatever do you want? He says, what do you mean? He says, believe me, I don't also know the shiur, but one thing I know, I'm over here for more than 20 years and nobody ever told me anything. Nobody ever told me anything. I'm here for 20 years. Nobody ever told me. Yeah, that was the concept. The concept was he made the guy feel so at home. I've been here for 20 years. Nobody ever told me that I had to leave. So you went, okay, he's here 5-6 weeks. Big deal. That was the level of what we're talking about. Something incredible, right? But again, this is all the same yesod that we have to pay attention of how it is ben adam lechavero to make them feel good, not to make them feel inferior, that now he's a poor person, that now he's a this. The Eved Ivri has to feel like a king because all naturally already feels down. He already feels bad. And you have to cure him. The only way of curing him is tikkun midot. When you show him what it is, a Jew, that the guy's going to say, do you know what that means? There's only one pillow and the master's giving it to me? You know what an impression that makes on the Eved Ivri? That he just came and he stole and he didn't have money to pay back, so he had to be sold as a slave? You know what that makes on a person? Did the guy is saying, like, something's wrong here. And that's how he's going to fix his midot. It's a tikkun for the midot. It's for him to become a better person. If you're going to come and take the Eved Ivri, which is basically a person that stole and he didn't have what to pay back, and you throw him into jail, he's going to become even a bigger crook. That wasn't the purpose. The purpose was you put him into a house that he becomes the king of the house. And when he comes and he sees what's going on, he changes his entire outlook in life. He changes his midot. He changes who he is. And that way he's actually able to become a much better person. Shabbat Shalom.